during the meeting. I can't last 2 hours.
I got you. Yeah, I don't think this is going to go too long.
You're good to go.
All right, okay. I don't have a hard copy. Well, let's see. Do you have any more copies of this?
Yes, I do.
With the changes?
One more.
We actually have a copy.
Or
of
we can
the
share
sheet
this
too,
one. If it's
Yeah,
yours,
it's
we
good.
can share
Oh
this
no, I
one.
have it pulled up on my computer.
All right.
And then I also have copies of the workshops as well.
Thank you.
It's very small. And
Thank you.
we're live. It's like.
This is great. Okay.
Is Tom gonna be here or Tom gonna be on Zoom? Do we know?
I don't see Tom, huh?
We're not gonna see his smiling face? Okay.
No.
You're live, Dave.
He did send me an email.
You're live.
I'm live, okay. All right, okay, it is 5:03 and I'm gonna call this meeting to order. We'll start with roll call.
Alex Robinette.
Brian Ryder?
Jay Van Babel.
Dave Bench.
Duke Garwood.
All right. You. And looking at the consent agenda here. Oh, anybody sign up for public comment?
No public comments.
No public comment, okay. And there's nobody, if I'm reading this right, there's nobody on the Zoom call.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay. And, all right, so then we have our consent agenda, which has one item on it, the minutes from last meeting. Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
I so move that we approve the minutes from whatever date that is,
September 23rd.
23rd. Okay,
Second.
I think it says 26th.
September 26th, excuse me.
Oh, no, okay. Was it the 26th? Okay.
Yes.
That's right.
All right, we have a motion, it's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion.
Seconded, Dave.
Brian Ryder.
Brian,
Thank you.
okay. Very good, and, all right. We're pleased to welcome Sarah O'Brien back today to discuss where Bowie is with our survey. I can tell you this. Most of you know, most of you got the emails saying, asking you to have someone try out the survey on a member of your household, see whether or not it is ready for prime time. We had gotten a number of responses back to that. I made some changes with Alex's assistance on the survey to take into account those comments, and then the resulting survey that was then passed on to Bowie Company this past Thursday. They've had a few days to look at it and now have come back with their edits, which are fairly minimal. And pleased to say, I think that means, at least from Bowie's perspective, we must have not been too far off track.
No, absolutely.
So I think as our first point here, we're just going to kind of talk about their edits and just kind of agree to or not that we're fine and we can move forward with the way that it's written.
Were there any others?
Sounds
I
good.
would
Oh,
just
were there
ask
any
you to help
emails?
us with any questions that stand out in your mind that we can answer.
Yeah. So, as Dave mentioned, the edits we tracked were minimal, just a few kind of clarifying changes here and there. But there were a couple of questions we did have throughout, maybe a couple of recommendations that we thought might be helpful to talk about at this meeting. So in the intro, we do mention that all responses, let's see, let me find them. Okay, after reviewing the results of the survey, the committee will analyze and discuss options before presenting them back to the public for further review. And just wanted to clarify that that will be the next step, or will they go to council before being made public?
I think that what we'll be doing is keeping council apprised of our progress. I don't think we're going to want to let too much of the cat out of the bag before we get it out to the public.
Okay.
Our intention is to complete get the survey completed gather the responses, and then report back to the public as to what we think we're hearing, without making any recommendations or going any further than that. And we're gonna do that, I think, with meetings here
Mhm.
and out in different parts of Rollingwood. Set up a table with a poster and say, this is what we think we heard.
Okay.
But don't you think that this will be, the survey results of this survey will be presented back to the city council would be the next step, right?
I think we'll report back to city council on what it is. I mean, it's a good point of discussion. Do we need to tell city council what we heard? And I think what you're saying is maybe, and what I'm saying is maybe not. So,
Well,
but is it germane? Does it matter?
Well, I just want to be clear in the description of the survey, because right now when we say we'll present them back to the public for further review, I don't know that that has enough detail. If somebody would like to, you know, if it's saying we would present them back to the public at the results at a future CRCRC meeting or at a city council meeting, just letting them know where to look for those results after they've been reviewed.
Well, we will be bringing them to a CRCRC
Okay.
meeting. That's for sure. And then,
I think what we were trying to say is that just because people are filling out the survey doesn't mean that that is going to be, you know, the end game. That they fill out the survey, we look at it, we engage the public again about
Mhm.
it long before we get to the point of making recommendations to council.
I think that says it well. That's right. I think that's our intention. Is
Yeah.
that we want to. The survey is one means for us for collecting this information, but there are others.
Okay.
We're providing avenues right now.
That, I guess, the point of what we were trying to say there is that the public will have opportunities to weigh in on these things again.
Again,
Like
this
this
isn't-
is, yeah. it's
Just
not-
because you fill out the survey, we get these answers doesn't mean this is what's going to happen.
Right.
Okay.
There's many steps along the way before recommendations get made to council, so.
Okay. Well, then we can make just a few small edits, I think, to that to make that clear, and then
Yeah,
that would be
yeah.
good to go.
You know, go ahead.
just that you're wanting to move this process along, and what you're saying here is it'll be the results of the survey will go back to the committee, which is us, to analyze and discuss options, right? Before presenting them back to the public for further review. It seems to me that the city council needs to be apprised of the results of the survey before presenting it back to the public for further review.
We haven't had any discussion with city council on this, all right? I can't tell you that they want us to tell you. I can't tell you, I mean, it's not, there's nobody here from city council right now. Where?
Aren't you still on council?
I've never been on council.
Do we have to get that specific?
Yeah, I'm wondering,
But I mean, is it a big deal if we hand in the survey results in some format and say, here's what we're working with, or?
oh, I have no trouble with it.
I mean, it's gonna be a public record just because of the nature of the public meeting rules, so I don't know that we need to get all specific, because we don't know what the council wants to do. If they give us some instructions while we're underway and they start getting some feedback from neighbors, okay, we'll do what they wanna do. I don't
That's
think,
kind of where I'm, is that we really haven't, we haven't talked to them about it. You know, if you've been to a city council meeting, they go deep into the night. And they may or may not have time to listen to what, they may just wait for us to start making recommendations. They may not want to hear. My expectation is we're providing them some updates as to what our progress is. But the upcoming city council meeting, I don't have any plans of even updating them this time, that the survey is going to go out. Naturally, they can come to any of these meetings or present, but you know, we're kind of our own little entity here. But if you think it's important, we ought to ask them if we should. You know, we can do that.
I would just think the city council would wanna know what's the results of anything that we're doing as we go along.
Yeah, there's no doubt they'll get that. The question is, in what way are we phasing it? If we want to phase it, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have a position on this, Jay. I'm just saying that as a matter of my having been around various committees for 3 decades here in Rollingwood, along with Duke, city council's gonna get it. People are gonna talk about it. There's gonna be talk about it.
Right.
So there's no need to be
And so-
more specific than.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We'll let the city council decide how they want to release the data when we get it, but.
You'll hear from Tom, and unfortunately he's not on, but more often than not, he says that it's really about the public. Making sure that the public has heard what's going on. That's our big challenge, is to engage the public in this thing. City council will come, but again, you know, if it makes sense for us to talk to city council, we can do it. Yeah,
I mean, I'm like Brian, it's not a big deal.
yeah.
It's gonna happen when and how it dribbles out.
So-
Does that answer your question?
It does. So I've updated it to read, after reviewing the results of the survey, the committee will analyze and discuss possible options before presenting them back to the public for further review at future CRCRC meetings.
Why don't we just toss a promptly in there to make, so that people can know that we're not gonna sit on it for any length of time.
The committee will promptly analyze.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
let's
whenever we
say
talk
before
about, actually, I have
promptly.
a little trouble with the word options being there, because we're not going to be talking about options for a while.
Mm-hmm.
We're really gonna be talking about results, or the survey results, not options. That comes later.
Okay. So after reviewing the results of this survey, the committee will analyze and promptly present them back to the public at future CRCRC meetings.
Yes, that sounds good, at the very least.
Okay.
Why did we change all responses will be confidential and anonymous to the CRCRC? To what degree are they anonymous to anyone and everyone?
We talked about this last meeting, and that there's concern that by not making the survey anonymous, we may be scaring folks off from answering.
Well, and I agree with that.
Yeah,
But to say it's anonymous to the CRCRC opens the door to question who is it not anonymous to?
It's not really responses that are anonymous, it's the identity of the responders that's anonymous. I mean,
Well, and
obviously, we're getting the results of the survey.
The reason I added that in there was because, and it states this in the sentence above and then in the disclaimer down below when we ask for the addresses. And we could maybe pull that exact language back up. But we are requiring folks to put their address in so that we can ensure that we aren't getting multiple survey results from the same residents.
right.
And if we're requiring an address, but then earlier we're saying all results are anonymous, I think that causes some confusion. And so by saying they're anonymous to the folks that are actually analyzing the results, I think that helps clarify. But if we need to clarify that a little bit further, we could.
It's not the responses that are anonymous to us, because because that's the data
Yeah,
that we
it-
retrieve. It's the identity of the responders that's anonymous.
Correct.
Okay, so it needs to say all responses will be confidential and the identity of the responders will be anonymous to the RCRCC. The CRCRC. I'm still learning my
It
my
rolls
tongue has
off
not gotten used to that
After
yet.
you've done it 400 or 500 times, it rolls off the tongue.
No doubt.
Okay.
Okay.
You'll notice in that intro paragraph, we also highlighted you may save and return at any time. That was just something that we wanted to confirm we would be able to do within SurveyMonkey, the tool that we're using.
Yeah.
And it does look like that will be fine. So
Great news.
I wanted to highlight that just so we discussed it. But after looking through it, I think we're all set.
Okay, it's great news. Now, the 15 and 45 minutes to complete, you know, I put that in there, and that's based on the responses I got back from y'all. So, some people were lickety split. Some people were asking me questions.
No, and I think that's good to include. And then I don't know how detailed we want to go into all the edits. A lot of them were just kind of changing the way things were written to be consistent throughout. So those are pretty small edits.
I just want to bring up a point that was brought up last time, and some of the responders brought it up, but it's still not changed in any way, and that's the use of the word reference datum.
That's in the code,
Actually,
unfortunately.
we took 4 or 5 instances of the word, of that phrase, reference datum out. And, you know, and this is my fault, but they use the word in the current code. And I don't know what else to do about it. If you're gonna talk about the current code and put it in there,
Look, if that's a direct quote of the current code, then it has to stay that way. But when you get to, there are other ways to determine the reference datum. Could we at least put in there an explanation of what reference datum is? We had that in some version or another. I mean, 3 out of the 4 responders said that was confusing to them.
Yes.
I
so-
thought I did correct it. Oh,
well, that's actually, I put the words behind reference datum on what you had just read, or establish a point of reference from which to measure building height. That didn't exist in the last version.
well, and when we talked on the phone, we had talked about maybe when we're not citing code specifically, we change the language and we say building reference point or something along those lines.
I guess the challenge is this. is
Building
if we
height
say it
reference
15
point.
different
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
or
But you
15
need to
different
keep
ways.
using reference datum consistently. And then again, I think the explanation that follows thereafter is good. Establish a point of reference from which to measure building height.
Yeah, okay.
That's the,
If we put that in parentheses, that would indicate that it's a definition of reference datum.
Would you like that better?
To me, that's the way I read it. If it's in parentheses, it's another way of saying reference datum.
Can we
You
make
only
it
have to do that
parenthetical?
once.
I would say paren, which establishes a point of reference from which to measure building height, close paren, period. So that the reference datum is clearly identified. That's one place where it is. You wanna put that everywhere we have reference datum? I would do that too. I'd be happy to do that.
Is it enough to just do it one time?
Typically, that's what you would do, just kind of the point of first reference.
But if
Now, we
people
do
said
reference
was
it first through the
If people said it
code.
was confusing, we need to do everything we can to make this as simple as possible.
agree with you.
Look, the topic is confusing.
Yeah, it is. It is.
This is not simple stuff.
When you bold reference datum, can you maybe bold point of reference in the definition or the whole definition or something to really say, one time, this is what reference datum means?
I would probably, if we were going to do that, I would suggest putting it in the parentheses as opposed to bolding it, because I think if you were to bold another couple words, it could get confusing. So I do agree. We could either put it in parentheses, or we could just change the word "or" to meaning to establish. point of reference.
You know, we did hear back from the respondents, you know, the test responders.
Hmm?
And it
Parentheses,
is a
meaning to
confusing thing.
establish.
I did take a
So it
number of
works for
cases
me.
of reference data notes. But, I was hoping that you would come up with the magic language here, that everyone would say, oh, yes, of course.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
unfortunately,
we got those guys on
because
our side.
reference datum is in the code, there's not much we can do about that. When I read through it, I understood the reference data or establish a point of reference from which to measure building height.
Yeah.
But if that's not clear to everyone, we could, I think, drop it in the parentheses or just add meaning to establish a point of reference from which
we
to
think that
building height.
parentheses, meaning to establish a point of building height, close parentheses would work.
Hmm. I think so, or we could add an asterisk, because since this isn't our first point.
No, put it all in the,
Okay.
either which or does or means or something of the sort, and
Yeah, I think asterisk works better whenever you're using paper copies. If you're in the middle of a online kind of thing, then who knows where that goes, you know?
I'm just curious, when you're quoting the exact code, and that's why you use reference datum, can't you just put in parentheses a definition, sick, or whatever it's called, when you put something
We can do
in a
it.
legal code the very
Yeah.
first time it's used?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Or you
Yeah,
could
that's
treat
good.
it like a,
Maybe parenthetically or in italics or both.
Yeah, and then
it's-
just don't do it then it covers you for the rest of the whole document.
you could also treat it like a frequently asked question and just like, what the heck is reference datum? And, you know, like as if everybody's thinking that and just spell it out.
Would a hyperlink work? That'd be an idea. More complicated, not
A
helpful.
little more complicated.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like it either. I promise I don't.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I will take that and we'll incorporate it into the edits because I think it does need to be, once I just dropped it in, it needs to be reworked a little bit. So I'll take a look at that.
But you understood it, and you're working with anybody else there at Bowie? Did you look at it? Did anybody say, oh, God, I don't have any idea what they're talking about? Or what, you know?
No. I think that being able to, having dropped that definition in right after it did clarify, but
Okay.
we can clarify it upon first
All
mention.
right. Very good. We are gonna have a look at this thing before it goes out, right? We're gonna see the online version of this before it goes live.
That's correct. Yes. So what we're doing tonight is going through the edits, ideally so that we can get pretty close to final on those. We'll recirculate an updated version with any of the edits we discussed tonight. And then once we get that approved by this committee, then we'll upload it to the survey tool. And then from there, we'll send a test out to everyone. And we have several days to go back and forth on
Wonderful.
edits on that as well.
Lovely.
Okay, so again, just once we go down to the next question, question 4, we just added a little more clarity here. Should we look at alternate ways to measure building height? If so, which of the ways listed above would you prefer, since we list multiple ways?
I think it's a great idea.
I do too.
Actually, I think that was something we kind of missed doing.
where is that?
This is where I'm question 4, and we're not just blasting out, there's other things, should we do something? It's more like, if there's something we should do, which one do you like? So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
I kind of like that.
On building height, why did you delete the 35-foot maximum residential building height?
Oh, we didn't. The edit there is we wrote out, I think, foot or feet.
Oh. Okay.
It might have kind of showed up funny in the printed copy, but that was just to be consistent with the way we're writing out feet throughout the document.
Right.
Okay.
I would, on setbacks, if I can jump all the way to setbacks.
Sure.
I'm still confused by the rear. 20 feet including pools, but not pool decking. I'm not sure, I'm not a pool owner and I haven't had to deal with this, so
Right.
I'm ignorant of what the what that really means. The
Okay.
20-foot allows pools within the 20-foot setback?
No, it does not.
It
You're
does
not allowed
not.
to have a pool in the setback, you are allowed to have a pool deck.
So the water line can go to the 20-foot setback. Coping, deck can be in the setback.
Can we make that clear here?
Do we need to add a pool to the graphic?
Pardon?
Do we need to add a little pool to the graphic? If it, I mean, we can.
No, I just think do it with the, which I would say 20 feet, which prohibits pools, but not pool decking. Is that an accurate way to say it, Luke?
It's fair.
20 feet
I mean, it's
instead of
still not-
including pools, which prohibits pools, but not pool decking. But I don't know what the including pools means there. You know, so that, is the pool included in the setback or included?
How did you read it, Sarah? Did it make sense to you? Did you understand?
I know. I think that is I think I understood it because we talked about it at the last meeting.
Okay.
But I think that is a good clarification to mention that it does prohibit pools,
Yeah,
but
I
not
think
pool
we'll be
decking.
clear to people what is and
Yeah.
what is not in the
I'm
setback.
good.
I think that's a good comment.
Just a general question, are these diagrams gonna be much larger in the actual survey?
Yes. So what's been included in the documents that you have were just the ones that were included in the Word document for reference, but we have original files that Alex provided that we'll be able to put into the survey so that it will show up much bigger
You'll
than that.
actually be able
Text.
to read it?
Yes.
Read the little
Yeah.
print?
Yeah.
For rear,
Yeah, that was one of the comments, and I think that actually came from you. Was it the
My better half.
text, your better half, the text came back too small to read, and they can just blow it up a little bit.
Well, the images that we have are the images that Alex provided are bigger than what's just been included in
Louis
the
has
Word
your
document.
comments too. What I sent back to y'all, they have. Okay.
Yep.
yeah, so
And then-
for rear, I would recommend reversing the language so that it says something like 20 feet, pools may not be in the setback, pool decking can be in the setback, something that's more declarative. I agree with your comment.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not picky about the wording, but I think the concept you and I share is needed to be in there so that people understand exactly what we're talking about.
Would you take it? Just do what you can.
Yes. Can you repeat?
Sure. So 20 feet, and I would just say pools may not be in the rear setback, pool decking may be included
In the setback.
in the
Maybe
setback.
we can say in the
Yes,
setback.
because if you took this literally, the way I read it, it sounds like pools can be in the setback, but not the pool decking.
It's that kind of ambiguity that I don't wanna have.
Exactly.
Okay. We'll make that edit.
Thank you. Very
I would go next to question 8, but I am amenable to someone
No.
jumping in.
good. No, this is Sarah's discussion right now, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Question 8?
Pardon?
Go ahead.
Was there anything
Am I
specific
on
on
it?
question 8?
Boy,
I think she's giving you the floor.
It's better than giving me the finger. Okay. Residents have written emails about impacts of buildings and landscape along and within setbacks, including, are these objections or issues or desires to affirm? I don't know what these are.
Go ahead.
Looks
Yeah.
like a me.
Just say raising the issues about would be fine with me.
So I think that a lot of this sort of comes down to impacts that people are complaining about that seem to occur along shared setbacks. And some of those things are buildings that are tall, buildings that consume the entire setback, sometimes to the maximum height.
And that's the tinting that is.
Right, so that's what leads to that, and
Yes.
that there's little side articulation, so that you could have just a big flat building. If it's covered in white stucco, it's highly reflective. Like, all of these things contribute to impacting your neighbors.
Yes.
And removing trees also. If the trees were maintained, a lot of those building impacts would be minimized. And then something else that's come up is land removal. People have mentioned that sites are being cleared up to the property line and then excavated down. So,
Yeah, that was one of Jeannie and ours issues, was
Should we add the word complaining after emails?
well, what are they? I mean, I have, my question is not to say they're complaints or they're not complaints, or they're suggestions or not suggestions, or issues but not issues. I want to use some kind of a descriptive word, but I want it to be accurate as to whether these are just issues that have been raised or
Well,
complaints. If they're all complaints, let's put complaints about.
How about emails with concerns about?
I think I like that.
That's a better word.
Yes, emails with concerns about.
I would just say
Complaint.
residents have concerns about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave out the written emails.
I think the
the
emails was a way of validating,
Yeah.
bringing up the topic, but it's not necessary.
Complaint is a
I'm with
bit
Alex on that.
loaded.
It's strong,
It's
right?
a little
Yeah.
bit, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Did you get
I got that.
something? Did you
Yes.
consolidate all that?
So we have
Read it.
residents have written emails with concerns about the impacts of the buildings and landscape along and within setbacks, including. And I would recommend keeping that.
Says we don't even have to say emails. You can just.
I would actually recommend keeping that in there. And to Alex's point, I do think it validates why this is included in the survey, because I think somebody could come back and say, well, are they just your concerns, or are they actual concerns that we've heard
They are
from
backed up, and we have the
neighbors?
emails. Yeah, okay.
Well, I just said residents have raised issues, leaving out the email because they could raise it other ways. Maybe somebody doesn't have email. They say, what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did we get any letters in form of actual pieces of writing on paper? Does that still exist? Is that legal?
I think the emails were an important piece, because that was a part of the process
Yeah.
where they sent the emails, we used the emails to create the survey.
Yeah.
So I would recommend including it.
Okay.
Yeah, we've gotten about 70 emails.
Yeah.
At least 75 or 80.
Yeah.
Sorry, so are we leaving it or taking it out?
Leave it in.
Leaving it in. Okay.
I would add the word written emails with concerns.
Yes,
Okay.
we have that.
Good.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Brian, is there another thing that you want to focus on here?
I want to have stories, and we're not talking about Robin Hood or something like that. The number of levels, and I need to talk to Duke about this right here. To me, the issue of how many stories you have, Duke, has always been a real soft issue about somebody's house is 2 stories or 2.5 stories because they built some rooms within the cone of the roof, etc. Is the number of stories a meaningful standard? Does that measure anything meaningful from an architectural standpoint? I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
I mean, I had thoughts about that also, because it's gonna be controlled by the eventual height and
Yeah,
architectural.
and if
you've
somebody
gotta
wants
have a certain
9-foot
amount of-
ceilings versus 12-foot
ceiling
ceilings, then
height.
they're gonna get more stories, so to speak. and
But it's
more
just a survey question whether they
Yeah.
have a concern
Yeah.
about stories.
I agree. Maybe we don't need to be that precise.
The
And
word
if we do the
stories-
floor to area ratio question, and the council wants to do floor to area ratio, if you put a whole bunch of 8-foot ceilings in and have 4 stories, you're not gonna get that, because the floor to area ratio is gonna catch you unless you've got a very big lot. And the whole idea of the floor to area ratio to me is to make the house proportionate in size to the lot. And stories doesn't seem to me to be a real measurement of anything of great concern, but I'm not objecting to putting it in there. I'm just asking questions from my own education, unless Duke has, as an architect, has some real argument that it's got value to it, or
Oh, I
Alex,
think
do
it
you?
has value.
I think it's important just for people to respond to, because a lot of people have mentioned it, and I
Yeah.
agree that it's not an easy question to resolve, and you can build multiple stories
Yeah, as to
within the
whether we would
height.
use it or not
Yeah.
as a
And-
code device is a different question.
But I do think
And-
it's going to be a great discussion for us later, once the survey results come back. How do we sort of address some of the issues where, like, it's a full 4-story house, versus a house that's 4 stories, but the ground level's in a basement, the top level's in a roof. You're really looking at a 2-story house from the street. You know, there's nuance, but I think I view this as responding to a lot of people that have mentioned limiting the stories. We don't have a set answer, but I think it's gonna be a complex thing to
talk about,
discuss.
And we need the input to
Yeah.
have it discussed.
Yeah.
I'm
think
okay. I'm okay
Yeah,
with
I
that.
think the information that we get on that's gonna be good.
Okay, all right. I
And
don't
again,
have an objection
Talking
to
about it
it.
in terms of stories versus levels is just
Yeah.
more layman friendly.
I would
And I mean,
agree with
again,
that.
what, you know, when we talk about FAR, you can end up with a percentage number that'll drive everybody to really small footprints, however many stories they get. So the discussion of stories is important.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to have
Just
that
as
discussion.
one other thing, it is not prescribed in our code right now for residential.
I'm
It
aware.
is prescribed in our code for commercial. Our
Oh.
commercial code is limited to 2 stories. So, just as an aside.
Okay, I appreciate getting that information.
All right.
I have a question about question 10, which is
Mhm.
the tenting question. And I'm just wondering if this is in the right place in the survey. Really, it's a matter of buildable area, right? So to me, it seems it should either come after the FAR section, or have a separate heading, bolded heading, whatever you want to call it.
Uh-huh.
Buildable tent.
Yeah, add a question 9, tenting or something,
What question is that?
well, it's not, that's question 9. No, that's not
It's
question.
No,
10.
it's question
This
10.
portion here is
Deals
what
with
follows here.
the tenting diagram.
But okay, the
So it's
diagram,
question 10.
I think it was kind of a progression all under the umbrella of setbacks, that there are, you know, a number of ways that you can approach what's happening along the setbacks, and it kind of, to me, culminates in the tenting discussion. And we're trying to be very careful about using too much of the tenting or the McMansion or anything that triggers visceral reaction from people that don't want it to be like Austin.
Yeah.
And so I think, for me, I think it's good where it is, kind of within this setback heading and not under a separate heading. But that's my personal feeling. I'm not,
I agree.
feel
I
strongly.
don't have a
but-
strong feeling one way or another.
I will note the way
I
we're.
like the idea of the tenting, though. I mean, the city of Houston, where am I? The city of Austin uses that on downtown about requiring
Sure.
setbacks at a higher, when you go up a certain level, you have to start setting back. And the idea there is so that you don't have this canyon with no light when the sun is shining in.
It's a very powerful tool.
Mhm.
It's,
It's a very useful tool. I like it.
Well, just the FAR section is building measures the building's mass relative to its lot size and can reveal how much built area there is on a property. In other words, buildable area. It has to do with buildable area.
They are similar.
And then
yeah.
the tenting one, which doesn't have a name on it at all, like FAR,
Okay.
is also about buildable area. It's not about setbacks, really.
it's about setbacks. Yeah,
It's a
look,
setback
I'm
that's
just
above the
telling you,
ground, Jay, is what it's
Jay,
really
if-
dealing with.
if-
Now, whether
I'm
you
gonna
need to
tell
put
you this.
something on it to say we're introducing a subcategory here is the matter
Okay.
of literary merit, I suppose, but it is a setback issue. It's just a setback above the ground instead of just a setback that goes
Well,
forever
then
to the
call it-
sky.
I'm gonna,
Well-
hey, I'm gonna tell you that, and I'm gonna speak for Alex as well. If we were sitting down and planning out a house, you go to the lot size, figure out your FAR and go, okay, that's my square footage. And then you start working within the setbacks,
Mhm.
and one being part of the tent, if that's a restriction.
Mhm.
Especially if I'm in the city of Austin working under the McMansion rule. Then I look at the tent requirements as really setback issues.
Okay.
Do they have tenting in the McMansion rules? Do they have tenting
Oh,
concepts?
it's the critical piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess that's fine. It just seemed to me it was kind of buried there,
Do you-
kind of stuck there. Like,
Would you feel better if we had something like tenting, like as a, kind of
yeah, like number of stories.
Like number of
life
stories is
speeds,
there, and
building
we have-
height.
Just a heading there?
Yeah, just
You
a
have,
heading
you
on
have
top of
far
that
as a
little
heading,
section.
you know.
And I certainly don't have a problem with that, it's fine, just add a word.
One thing I'd like to mention is that the way we were planning to set up the survey, and if you'd like to do something differently, please let me know. But because of those headers, the way you can set it up is you can set up a page. So we would be able to have like the description at the top of that page, the images that they'll be referencing, and then the questions below. So for example, measuring building height, you would have that description, the code reference, the image, and then you'd go and add in on that same page questions 4 and 5. And then you would go to the next page, and that would be FAR. And so if we do add a heading, that would put tenting as its own page, the way we have it set up now. So if you'd like to keep tenting with setbacks, then I would not recommend adding that heading. But if you would like it as a separate page to make it stand out a little bit more, then we can do that.
I'd like to do that.
Here's
I
one
think-
suggestion. Oh, go ahead. Is that for setbacks, we have questions 7 and 8. I would like to include question 9 and 10 together, and those could all be under a heading of tenting or something else. But to me, they kind of go together. It's more of a vertical setback. Maybe we use it that way.
And it-
That's our heading.
No, to what Jay was concerned about, I think it does sort of lead you that way when it says building area can be restricted using using the tent method. And I mean, to be honest with you, to me, and it may not be layman friendly, but it almost ought to say proportionality can be restricted or governed using, because that's what the tent's all about. Not trying to overwhelm your neighbor with a 35-foot wall.
I understand that
What was that?
tenting is fairly easy to understand, and proportionality is a more complicated and softer term, dude.
I agree with you.
I think we keep tenting.
Or, well, the tenting would go above the tent, but if, by Alex's suggestion, you include 9 with 10, then maybe the title should be building to setbacks,
Either,
or something
yeah,
like that.
or either tenting or vertical setbacks, if that's not too obscure. Or, yeah.
If we put tenting on top of the actual introduction to this question 10, then that separates it from question 9, and you had asked if we could put those two together.
To me, they go together. I mean, it's sort of like you introduce the issues in question 9, and question 10 goes, well, hey, here's a way that kind of gathers all of those issues, potentially.
Well, what would be the header that would combine the two questions? And it's not vertical setback.
Could the header be
Building along the setback, tenting, something like that.
could it be
have that
setbacks and
page.
tenting, and you include what's currently under the setback questions?
Well, Alex is right in that the concepts go together because the issue we're trying to deal with is whether you can have the big 35-foot white wall. That's the issue of building along the setback, and the tenting is a modification of that by reducing the height of the big white wall. So let's find a combined heading and put the two together because they conceptually are related. If that's what you'd like to do. I don't care if you
Well,
have a page for each one of the questions.
Although I'm now coming around to just leaving it as setbacks and having 3 questions in setbacks, because they deal with each other, buildable area and setbacks, they're obviously related.
Well,
So just leave it as is.
and you can also address, from question 9, you can address each of those individually without going to tenting. You might say, well, we should put a limit on the height at which you can build along a setback, which I think comes out to be somewhere around, 15 to 20 feet or something. I don't know. Like, you might tackle the issues in tenting individually, so that kind of gives you that option. So I'm kind of like leave it as it is, but
Is there too much information in there for one page?
3 questions
For how
on
you're
one
gonna be
page
doing it?
with the drawings.
Yeah.
That would be 4 questions on one page with the additional information and drawings.
That's a lot.
I think until we see it.
No?
I think that's too much on one page, frankly, but
Then break it 2 and 2?
make it 2
Yeah.
pages.
2 and 2?
We can.
Like,
What would you like the
setbacks
heading of the
continued or
second
something for the
section
title
to
of
be?
the next page.
Setbacks 2?
I mean, we can do continued, or what I added here is building along setbacks as the header instead of just setbacks,
I kind of like that, actually.
and then we could do building
It's
along
like your
setbacks
and then
continued.
Building along setbacks is,
Or
it's
just
almost like measure and the means for measurement, that we were talking about. No? That's not a smile. 2 and 2. You don't have to put a header on there at all. Second page.
Excuse me. Okay. We will split it up as 2 right now and have it kind of as a setbacks continued. And then when we circulate that final, when it's actually laid out, if there's any confusion after seeing it laid out that way, then we can tweak it.
That'll be an easy fix.
Yes. No, we'll have plenty of time to edit
The layout
things
will be done.
once you see it. Yeah.
So it'll be 2 and 2 on the layout and,
Yes. And just to confirm, we're including question 7 and question 8 with all of the additional information on one page. And then starting with residents have written emails with concerns, question 9 and question 10 on a second page.
Yeah.
Okay.
love it.
I don't know if this is a good time. May I say something?
I'm sorry.
May I say something?
Please do, Shanti.
I just wanted to, well,
Come on.
you could be there. Shanti Jayakumar, 3309 Parkers Drive. So on our website,
Yeah.
we have this FAQs on setbacks with all the diagrams. I don't know if it's still there, all the setback
I
things.
don't remember seeing that.
yeah,
Huh?
I remember that.
I'm sorry?
I remember it. Yeah.
You
I don't-
remember this?
I don't know if it's still there.
So these are all the same kind of questions,
Yeah.
and diagrams are there.
I wonder, are those still there?
Well, I keep referring to that because
Yeah.
it's.
I think at one point Nikki was going to take them off.
Should still be there. The issue was a few of them were inaccurate.
Yeah,
Right.
one
I
I
don't know if they
remember.
all got pulled or if
Oh.
just
Yeah,
one,
if
but
they're there, I don't know about them.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
maybe an icky question if y'all want to.
We created.
yeah, we all get it. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
this setback diagram is hot off the presses. This is fresh stuff.
all I'm saying is,
Yeah.
these are online, and so if
Yeah.
there's a way to link it to, not to duplicate it.
Yeah.
So that there is accuracy between what's on the city's website,
Right.
and that's all I'm saying.
And all I'm
Sorry.
saying,
That's okay. And I just don't know which ones are on the website.
And I haven't checked, this is from I keep some of this stuff.
But I would not have a link to it on the questionnaire. You've got to have the actual diagram.
Correct, and we do have an actual diagram in there. I'm just not sure how it compares to what's currently on the
Yeah.
city website.
Well, I can't even find it, so.
I don't really think it's there. And it might have been there
just
once.
says
Well,
FAQ.
when did you just get it new?
No.
I-
Yeah.
I have so much stuff there.
Right.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I brought it to one of the council meetings because
Right.
there was an error on one of
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
And I wanted to show that the diagram the words didn't match the diagram.
And I think I
On
did the
one of them.
same thing to Nikki, and I think she said, yeah, those need to be pulled
it's no
out.
longer
So
there.
I think
Okay.
she must have, yeah, at some point pulled them out.
I don't.
Because I can't really find them.
Is there a frequently asked questions section?
Yeah, I didn't
Residential
realize there was an
checklist,
FAQ
yes.
section at all.
Here they are,
Yeah.
You got it?
under the
FAQ
FAQ.
residential construction.
And it shows the
You want this
pool
table?
location
Sure.
that you mentioned,
Oh, good.
and the setback.
Well, and Alex is the one that created the
Oh,
graphic, so
Oh, okay. I don't know.
yeah,
I have
that'll
no
be
idea. Okay.
whatever we
That's
update
fine,
there.
that's fine.
Not these,
How do
Yeah.
they look?
but, yeah.
How's it look? Is it right?
I don't remember what the issue was before. These look updated. They don't look like the original ones, so.
Okay.
But yeah,
Where
I
did you get
suppose if
these
somebody
from?
wanted to
We
look
we
at this,
made
they
them
could.
ourselves.
Who created that?
Not
I don't
from
know.
The
Yeah.
website?
City.
No, I was.
Yeah,
aware
yeah,
they
the
were
city.
doing that.
I don't know who within the staff did.
Does it conflict with the diagram that we have?
That's right. Well,
We should
in
have
the
known
survey?
if you go into the code itself, it's not.
Could help to know who created it so they can review the survey.
Yeah. Well, if there's something wrong with if they don't match, you're right, they probably
That's
should.
all I'm saying.
They probably should match.
Sorry, go
Yeah.
back up.
Yeah.
Go back up a little.
Um,
Because the side doesn't show the 25 cumulative.
This one's 30. This is a corner lot generally.
Okay, so yeah,
It-
maybe a different.
And it doesn't have a typical side yard.
But it
Do
doesn't
they-
show the 25 cumulative.
It
between
doesn't
two
show the
lots. That's just
cumulative
one
side, yeah, it only
discrepancy
shows
between the
corner.
two?
Yeah.
Does theirs have the right of way in it?
No, but I added it to my graphic.
That's
'cause it
right,
wasn't
that's
in
what
there.
needs, that's
Yeah.
part of the confusion, is that people don't know the difference between
There's
the right of way and a
additional-
setback.
Yeah. Yeah,
Maybe we
this-
can get our graphic put on the FAQ.
Yeah.
I'd rather go in that direction than the other way around.
I do think, I agree with you with the comment. I think
Yeah.
you shouldn't have conflict between the
No,
two.
that
Mhm.
before
Right.
it goes out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I'm gonna take that as something to do. I'm gonna work with Nikki and see if we can get them to harmonize.
And I've added a comment in our tracker too, so when we resend the edits,
Yeah.
you'll see that marked as well.
I love our graphic on this thing, so I don't wanna let it.
Don't want to change it.
I have a
Sorry.
It's okay. No, that's a very good point.
Thank you for
I have
that.
a question
Yeah.
about question 11.
Thanks.
Under the comments, you actually have a little suggestion there that you don't have anywhere else in the survey. You say, including thoughts on restricting overall area of, Counselor, I think that's a leading question.
Probably, and it actually overlaps with the tinting concept,
So I'm
because
just
that's
suggesting
exactly
we
what
remove
tinting is
remove that.
it is a restriction of the area of additional floors above a certain level. So I don't know if we want it in both places, or maybe we want it in the tinting, which talks about,
I guess I'm sorry,
Under question
Right.
11,
yeah, okay.
there's
number
a,
of stories.
should we
number of
limit the
stories.
number of allowable stories? Yes, no.
Yeah, okay.
And then comments, but it says comments including thoughts on restricting overall area of additional floors above a certain level. I mean, that's, you're
Suggesting a comment.
Actually,
you're suggesting a comment.
I think, yes, I agree. It should be a question. I think it was a question and then it got moved to comments, but I think the idea was, should you restrict how much you can build on the top level so that it's not a fully 3 or 4 story
Not a, it's
structure?
not a cube.
That there's some percentage of the the top floor that must be less than the floor below it.
Yeah.
Which is what would happen if you built within your roof or, you know, created setbacks. Like, all of these things are different ways of approaching kind of some of the same problems.
Could you change that to yes, limit residence to X stories, or yes, and then take words from that comment section, and then no, and then have comments just with comments? Because you're kind of telling them,
Yeah.
because I think your point is it could be yes for different reasons.
Right.
You could
That's
say,
What Jeff is saying is a box that says yes, and then just says restricting overall area of additional floors above a certain level.
This is
Which
a
would
tough
be an
one.
interesting test to see what consistency we get between that and the tinting concept, because those
Yeah.
are very, very similar.
what if you go to the paragraph that says some residents have asked for a limit on the number of stories, including possibly restricting overall area of additional floors above a certain level.
Okay.
And that's a prompt, but it's just kind of in the right place. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And then not deal with it at all here in the number of stories issue?
Right.
I don't have a
Yeah,
thought.
the question, the way it's written, is a little bit on the leading side. And, you know, and if you can incorporate it into the text above there, the discussion, it might work. Can we?
Sorry, because you referenced the emails from residents.
No, the number of stories section, the paragraph that precedes question 11.
Oh, yes. Okay, some residents have asked for a
Some-
limit on the number of stories.
So you're adding the overall area restricting overall area of additional floors above a certain level as a explanatory
Yeah.
note to
Yeah.
question 10?
Have a limited on the number of stories, maybe including thoughts on restricting overall area of additional floors above a certain level or something like
Yeah.
that.
You get it?
So you
So
would put the comment there instead of in 11.
some residents have asked for a limit on the number of stories and restricting overall area of additional floors above a certain level.
Or would it be others? Have there been separate emails from separate residents? Some saying limiting the stories, some saying limiting restricting the overall area of additional floors?
No, I don't think that there have been people that have necessarily suggested that. They have for sure suggested restricting the number of
I see.
stories.
I
Well,
see.
the person that included this in the comments, are they a resident of Rollingwood?
I think that was me.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you a resident of Rollingwood?
Yes.
Well, I mean, we do have that demographic check at the end.
It is actually true. I think Alex's email does say that.
Yeah, your email might have said it, right? And it doesn't cite the email, so you could just say sub-residents have asked for a limited number of stories. So it's people other than you have emailed that.
Yes.
And then separately, we can say others have suggested, and then we include the phrasing from the comments
Right.
in that sentence.
We
And
do
it's-
have emails that precede the creation of this group. And that would have been one of them.
Well, and it's not uncommon, I think you pointed out, that other cities have these restrictions on upper levels.
It was actually one of the recommendations in the 2004 study.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it was.
You could say the
It's a
2004 study
recommendation,
suggested.
In the 2000, that other committee that you were on in 2004 actually made a recommendation to restrict the third story square footage to something like 60% of the first story. It would require something to happen on the third story.
I don't recall that, but I would be in favor of it, but let's just figure out how to ask a question about whether people want that. And it's either in the tenting section or perhaps in the number of stories section. I don't really care, but we just need to ask the question.
Tenting does take care of it to some extent. But if you wanted to have it in there, I think that adding it is being part of the question may be a little bit leading. And if we can just rework the text above so that it includes it or suggests that this is an issue that people have brought up, I think that's fine.
Where
How
are you?
about,
We're talking about, we're still in the
Just
number of
moving.
stories.
I think they're separate
Comments.
questions.
should we address, not limit the number of allowable stories, should we address allowable stories, and one option is limit residences to a certain number of stories, restrict overall area of additional floors above a certain level, no changes at all, like, I don't know.
I think,
Doesn't that
Alex,
need
I
to
think
be
we should
a
come out
free
and
choice?
say this
Yes,
as a
limit
separate
to 2
question,
stories, 3
because
stories,
that's
4
ultimately what we're
stories,
doing.
yes,
If I'm,
limit to stories,
I'm confused as a reader, as a participant,
aren't those different things?
how to answer this with the level of
Yeah.
specificity around
That's why I
what my
would do it
answer
this
is
way.
to limiting number of stories versus limiting the size
Just
of the
put it
top
right
story.
Right.
And I
That's
think
a
it's
yes.
worthy of a separate
My main point
question,
is to leave
but
the
I'll leave
comments
that to you to
blank.
decide. I mean, it could be a really simple question,
I-
like a similar yes/no comment.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I hate to add more questions now, but maybe this particular issue needs to move over to the attending discussion.
I think the way this was worded initially, and this got reworked and edited down, is that there were multiple answers on this question,
Oh,
which
Not just
is
yes or no.
not just yes or no, but there was, should we limit number of stories?
Could be.
Should we restrict overall? And you could potentially check 2 if you
Mhm.
wanted. And then one was no limit.
I'd go back to that. I would go back to have a yes to blank stories, yes, blank stories with a limit on on the top floor, which basically then takes the comment,
Mm-hmm.
It
The
leaves the
comment at the
comment
bottom,
blank,
but
yeah.
just,
Yeah.
turn the
And then-
comment into a separate
and
question.
then a no.
Mm-hmm.
Well, make the comment into a question with a box.
Yep.
And I think that's what Alex is saying it came from.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what we would like to do.
Is that
you do
heard or
that?
said,
Sarah,
Sarah?
if you can,
We do that, or is
if
that
you could keep up with the bouncing ball.
Have
Yes.
2 yes boxes.
So what we'll
right,
do,
Yes, that is there stays. Add below that, yes.
I have yes restricting overall area of
yes,
additional
but
floors.
restricting overall area of additional floors above a certain level.
Mhm.
And do
delete
you
the
let
comment.
them submit yes for both? Could they check yes twice?
Can you do that on a survey?
Yeah.
We should be able to, yeah, you can, where you can select multiple.
So then we'll need to say, select all that apply, or some sort of
Mhm.
instruction around that?
And then, let's see, these ones.
If we get back somebody that checks yes, yes, and no, then just have to ding that one.
Yeah. Yes, but anything but that. Okay.
Is, because we really talk about just the number of stories in the question, and then we talk about restricting overall area of additional floors above a certain level, so I feel like that we're kind of missing some context there.
That's why
I
suggested
think
the
one of the
question.
issues people are having with stories, what I'm sort of interpreting is, I don't think people mind if a 3rd or 4th story is concealed somehow, like either in a basement
Mhm.
and in a roof. I think the issue is when people see 3 and 4 levels, like on the
Mhm.
Park Hills house. That's when people say, wait a minute, we can't have 4-story houses. But I think that if there was a restriction to what happens at the top, it becomes less imposing. And I don't think people would necessarily look at it as like, wow, it's not really a 4-story house anymore. I don't know. It's just,
You know, it gets to be real situational, Alex, in the sense that if you had that setback and then you had some trees that kind of also covered part of the roof of the lower stories, it would be a lot less obvious that there is that there's a very tall house
Right.
there. But I don't know how you write a code provision for that, and I don't know how you write a question for that.
well, you protect the trees.
Well,
Yeah.
that is separate, and
Yeah.
that's something we're gonna talk about,
Yeah.
I guess. It's what's on the agenda anyway. I don't know
Well,
what we're gonna do there.
Trees, well, we're just gonna introduce the topic,
Yeah.
that's all. It's just an
Okay.
introduction. We're not gonna make any decisions on
So back to 11, would we consider just not including that in the question and just expect that any answer related to that would be covered in 10 for tenting? Because it's very overlapping questions and there's a cost benefit there, but I mean, what are we trying to tease out here? If someone already said yes to tenting, do we really need them to
I think that's a good point.
reinforce it?
I think that's a very good point.
It,
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to the question, Jeff. The question is, to our average citizen who's an intelligent, educated person and they wouldn't be able to afford to live here, does tenting explain that concept, or does the restricting the floor area of upper floors better explain that concept? I would be in favor of both.
Put them both in there. Okay.
I'd be in
Because
favor of keeping both because they're, one is sort of theoretical and somebody might not understand it.
You might get different responses, and then you find
If we
which is
do,
more
then
palatable.
we're gonna have to figure out which one is the, which one is gonna be the one that's effective and counted. And I would say the specific one about setbacks of upper floors is the one that would really be meaningful there.
I have a prediction that limiting the size of the top floor might be more acceptable than tenting,
Could we?
but I have no idea. That's just a guess.
None of us are experts on making
Yeah,
and
and that's why we're doing the survey. So maybe to that point we would include it.
I'd be in favor of keeping both.
Okay.
Okay, so looking at
You figured out what we decided.
well, I want to make a suggestion. And I could be wrong about this, but under the tenting question, buildable area could be restricted using a set of angled plane geometric constraints known as tenting. Tenting serves as the core basis for City of Austin's ordinances, whose intent is to harmonize new development with existing residences. Is it more tenting, as tenting in parentheses or in quotations, could we then say which restricts overall area of additional floors above a certain level?
You can.
Or is it beyond that?
I would keep it where it is in the question about number of stories.
Okay.
Because it's related to that. It's related to both. And I kind of think that getting people to answer both questions gives us a point of validation about whether they understood tenting or not.
I gotta come back now to, are we trying to turn question 10 now, or rather question 11 into 2 questions? Are we
That's
back
my
to-
preference.
Is that where we're at?
That's my preference.
Why don't we try that?
Could be a really simple question.
And then see how that looks, and if we need to-
What are you suggesting, Dave?
Okay, what I'm suggesting, and I think this was actually brought up earlier, that we break this up into a question about the allowable number of stories, and then add to that a question about whether or not the top story or something like that needs to be of some.
So instead of comment, you would make number 12, would you favor
Yeah,
restricting overall area of additional floors above a certain level?
something like that.
Yes or no?
Yes, it would be a yes/no question.
And again, that serves as a validation on the tenting issue,
Right.
which
Really simple question, yes, no, comment, move on.
Can we-
Should we restrict overall area of additional floors above a certain level?
Yeah,
yeah.
that's it.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Oh, good.
All right,
Progress.
All
keep
right.
going.
Okay,
Do we need to add any qualifier? For example, we have in the number of stories, no limit to the number of stories, provided that the residence meets all other code requirements. Do we need that?
Such as the 35-foot height,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And we would need that in the second
I
one
think
as well?
I think yeah, it's not a bad
Okay.
reminder that, yes, we have other rules in place here. Yeah.
Okay.
One could look at this and start saying, oh, these people are going to make ordinances based on one of these things or the other thing. But it's actually gonna be a combination of things.
Things. Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, moving into circular driveways. Were there any comments from the committee? We didn't have any
Yeah.
edits there.
Yeah, actually, Tom had a comment about that, whether or not this shouldn't be handled by the request for variance. And we talked about it, and he agrees that this is a good question to put in.
To include, okay. All right. And then, again, same thing for light pollution, just some small text edits. If there were any discussion around those questions in the group. Okay.
Actually, yeah,
Trees.
I think we're out of the controversial stuff, really.
Okay, well then,
Yeah.
I did want to move down because we have, after we go through the survey questions, we get to demographic questions. And then we kind of end the survey, and then we do the following questions regarding building process and permitting are optional. And my recommendation would be to move those above the demographic questions.
Okay.
We don't necessarily, we can make them optional still, but that way, I think if once people finish those demographic questions, it won't be intuitive to then jump to more questions about.
You know, we
Building.
put those in as optional, and I don't really know why. You know, I know that got slipped in there that way. We just said, well, the survey is finished, but here's some other questions in case you've got time to answer them.
Mhm.
And I'm afraid that if we were to take the demographics and put them to the end, people might think, well, I'm done with the survey. I don't have anything
Right.
else to say. This is it. So if we do what you're suggesting, I would say, let's not say end of survey. That's not.
Yes, we would suggest putting them above the demographic questions, and if you don't want to make those required questions, we don't have to, so people could just skip past them, but.
I think, in my opinion, all the demographic questions, you have one is optional, the household income, but you don't have age as an optional question. I don't know why. To me, because these can identify people, like if you've done a house recently and you know, have lots of bad comments to make about it, you know, you're going to be concerned that you're
That's a really good
identifiable.
point. Yeah.
These are the same questions that were used in the original.
No, he's talking about question 20.
Okay.
Question 20 is gonna give some unique information that if we have the full data set, we could start to figure out, piece things together.
Yeah, you're right. You could. But just for those folks, just for them. Yes or no? I mean, you
Are
know,
we
not
suggesting
a-
get rid of the age and the income questions?
I think we're trying to track back to what the comprehensive plan had asked. They're the same questions that were asked by the comprehensive plan, and we got a variety of responses. What was interesting about it in the comprehensive plan is that it's not across the board everybody answering those questions. That some of those questions almost everybody answered, and some of them they didn't. But they did get a pretty significant response to everything.
So in the original.
So if you don't want to answer the question, don't answer the question.
Yeah, I don't think it's required.
Yeah.
Demographics, it's nice to have info, but
Yeah,
if people want to retain anonymity, right?
right.
Not fill it out.
Then why put optional under annual household income
Look, we ought to take that out.
if they're all optional?
We ought to just, that's
Yeah.
right, that's right.
Mhm.
We ought to just say that. It's not, or not say it. It doesn't matter. Answer the question if you want to, you know, but,
So all the demographic questions besides home address will be optional?
Yep.
Okay.
yeah. Oh, are you requiring answers to questions?
We were planning
probably
on it,
shouldn't
but if
do
you'd like
that.
to skip.
We probably shouldn't do that.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that if someone doesn't understand a question, I'd rather that they don't answer it.
Then have to put something in.
Right.
I
Yep.
think that's a good point. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the only one we'll require will be the address, and then we have that disclaimer in there as to why we're
And
Right.
requiring
Could
it.
that
the
be
whole-
bolded and big type and heavy.
Yeah, the way we add it in, because again, like the demographics section will be its own section. So we'll play with the layout, but yes, there's some different ways we can make sure that that's very clear.
So then if the whole survey is optional, do we state that at the beginning? Or do we state it on each question?
Oh, we don't say it.
We just don't say it
We
at
don't
all?
say it.
And just leave it?
No,
If you don't
leave
wanna fill it out,
yeah,
don't
leave
fill it
to
out.
you, yeah. I don't wanna suggest to people that you shouldn't answer a question or
But they
whatever.
can
or whatever.
skip it if
You
they
know,
want.
I think
Okay.
a little discomfort's not so bad.
Yeah. That's fine.
What are we doing with the questions on the final page as it currently set out? Are we moving the end of survey to after that?
Okay, sorry, before we move on to the topic, now we have to think about the data set, because now if folks are filling out the data set, they think it's optional, but then do they know that the data set will be released to the public? Because you can't give us the data set and not give everyone the data set, right? So do we then not want to have the data set? Because we don't want people to feel like their personal information was compromised. Because the aggregated information, you can't trace it back to an individual.
Right.
But if you put demographic info and did I build a house, yes or no, we can all start to figure out who responded to which questions. We can start to figure it out.
I just wanna handle it the same way the comprehensive task force.
We didn't get, I had requested in the last meeting to get the full data set, because
Yeah.
that would be useful to us.
Right.
But now that I'm thinking about it, anything that's available to us is available to the public. And the anonymity would be compromised further if everyone had access to the full data set, because you could then look at demographic info and answers to these optional questions at the end around building, and then figure out who said what, potentially.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think we need to worry about it.
You're not worried about that? Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, yeah, could you hoodwink somebody into identifying themselves in a way? I guess you could.
The only reason
That's not the intent of the survey.
the reason I'm bringing it up
Yeah.
is do we want people to know when they're filling it out that the data set will become public record and publicly available? Because it's unclear when you're filling out the survey that will happen down the road. So I feel like if we're going to do that, we should let them know that up front.
Well, and I guess
Let
the
them
question would be, it sounds like from in the comprehensive plan survey, that data set was not released to the public.
Mhm.
Is this, we want to make sure we're releasing this one to the public?
Well, I asked for it last time, but now I'm actually rethinking it because of the specificity of some of these questions. So it's just something for us to think through as a group on what we want to do.
What you're asking is should we put another sentence in the opening statement? And, if you're uncomfortable with not saying that this is gonna be out in the public domain, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, because then if you say it up front in the
Yeah.
beginning that this will be public,
Yeah,
except for your address,
right.
and every question is optional to fill out, then we're covered. Everyone knew up front what's going to happen. There's no ambiguity, and then we can go on with our business. That,
Yeah.
to me, that's perfect.
Okay.
I guess I'm just wondering if that's how you'd like to report out the data, by the individual data set, or if it's more, 50% of respondents said that they were generally satisfied with the trend of new construction in
That's the other
Willingwood.
option. So we have two options. We can do what I just suggested. The other way is, and that will give us more ability to slice and dice the data and get more
Mhm.
insights, but at the cost of the public feeling like anonymity could be compromised. The other option is we just do what we did last time. We don't release the data set. We
Yeah.
just get the SurveyMonkey analysis
Nope.
and be done with it.
No, first one.
First one. Okay.
First one, yeah. We want to have as much available to us as we can have.
Perfect.
And if somebody gets bent about that, well, I'm sorry.
As long as we let them know up front, transparency
If
is
you wanna,
important.
if we're being transparent, I'm fine with
Yeah.
that. Transparency's fine. We can put a sentence in there and say, the full data set, the full raw data set is going to be in the public domain. Just something like that.
Yep.
But no more than that. That's
And-
not,
and
make an issue with it.
And the addresses will not be released.
And addresses will not be
Perfect.
released.
Okay. Thank you.
I would still recommend, though, when reporting out on the, it's one thing I think to publish the data set so that people can then look through it, but if you were reporting on the data, that's not a typical way to typically report how, like, the answers to each of the questions.
We'd love the summary as well.
Okay.
You're gonna give us a summary for sure.
Well, we're planning to give you, as part of our scope, we're giving you the raw data, and then the team is pulling together the summary.
Right. We're not getting the summary.
We're not getting the summary.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
can do
doing
it.
it. Yeah.
I can do it.
Okay.
Just a note on what's public and what's not. I would have to confirm with legal, but I don't know that you could collect something and it not be public. So
Right.
even though we're saying, oh, we're not going to release it, I don't know that if someone came in and did a public information request for it, that we wouldn't have to release it. There'd have to be some, you'd have to go to the Attorney General
Sure.
and explain why we wanted to withhold it. So
Yeah.
we can tell people we're not going to release it, but I don't, until that all shakes out, I don't know how we would be able to hold
Related
that.
to the addresses you're talking about.
Right, because even technically, even if Bowie has it and doesn't give it to us, it's still the city's information. So they're considered a temporary custodian of our information. So if we got a request,
I think that's okay because someone would have to go through those measures to get the address. So if someone really wanted to, they could.
Yeah, I'm not uncomfortable with any
Sure.
of this. Yeah, it's.
right, I'm not worried about it, I just wanted to make sure you all knew.
Yeah,
that
and I
there's-
don't want to
there's-
have too many
yeah,
words in there to create discomfort.
Sure.
I mean,
So,
that's still accurate. Addresses will remain confidential from us. But if someone goes through, what's that request, the information
Public
request?
information request, yeah, we can't not, probably.
Yeah.
But,
Just sharing that.
but given what these questions are, there's nothing loaded in these questions that would cause somebody to seek to know what the answers are from individual residents.
Yeah.
This is not a hot survey, and it's just an opinion piece.
We'll see.
You know, maybe somebody will go out there and have some fun with it, just to do evaluation. But I can't see it.
I hope so. We'll
I wanted
find
to
out.
go back to you're saying the demographics questions and the ones about previous experience is not going to be listed as optional?
No, they will all be listed as optional based on what I heard today.
Okay.
My recommendation, though, is that those questions come above the demographic questions, because right now it feels like you're asking questions about building, then questions about the person, then going back to
I
building.
don't disagree with
So
you.
after the
agree.
home address part, it'll be some statement that the following questions are all optional or something like that.
Or we're just gonna move the questions on the last page up before the end of the survey note.
You're saying so that people know that please check any that apply to you in Rollingwood are all optional.
Right.
I think just by putting required next to home address, and we don't have that next to any of the other ones.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So,
But if you'd prefer we'd put optional, we can add that.
no, we don't have to say optional.
And if
Just
people
People
say
answer the question or they don't answer the question.
if they don't answer the question, you said that's a problem though if you don't get an answer to this
No.
question.
No, we said everything doesn't need to be answered. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay.
Yeah,
If they're blanks.
yeah.
Mhm.
We want it to flow smoothly. I mean, if there is no answer to the, if the answer to the thing, no, I didn't build anything in the last 10 years, then it's fine.
And the way we're planning to do that too is if they answer no, then they don't get asked question
Perfect.
21.
Yeah.
I have one more comment on the intro. We have a sentence, please note that links to additional materials have been provided in the survey where applicable and available. We only do that once. At the very end, we link the drainage manual. I'm just, in the spirit of having less to read, do we really need that statement?
Where are you?
The very beginning, second paragraph, right in the middle, it says, please note that links to additional materials have been provided in the survey. But there's only one link. and
There
it's
is
at
only
the-
one.
There is only one link. It's at the very end, under drainage manual, which I think is self-explanatory. And I just, it's one less thing to read. So,
You just want to take that
I
out?
just want to take it out,
Okay, take it out.
just if anybody objects.
I think the only reason it's in there is because we wanted it to look like we were really.
Well, I think at one point we thought we would have more links to things,
Mhm.
and then we just decided
Took
that
'em
was going
out,
to
yeah.
confuse
Too
people.
much
So,
info.
Yeah. I don't.
So we've taken that sentence out. It
Pull-
says,
pull the
please note
sentence.
that links to
Yeah.
additional materials.
If,
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
if that saves somebody 10 seconds on this survey, let's pull it out.
And then we have in here all responses will be confidential and the identity of the responders will be anonymous to the CRCRC. If we are releasing that data set to the public, then I would say we might, we would just say the identity of the responders will be anonymous.
Yeah.
I was trying to say that.
And we're striking to the, okay. I like that better, actually.
Should we add a sentence about collecting addresses to, for Bowie to help authenticate or something like that?
I think because we include that further down,
Yeah.
it's, and we have that disclaimer in there,
Mm-hmm.
it's all right, but if we'd like, we can just move that.
I think it flows better in that section, so you know up front, because
Mhm.
I would be, if you were someone who's really concerned about confidentiality and anonymity, and then you fill out the whole survey, and then you get to the end, and you're like, what? Now you're asking for my address as required? When in the beginning, it didn't sound like I needed to provide it.
Yeah, we can add that in.
There is a disclaimer around it.
For home address, there's a disclaimer, third to last page. Address to be used for survey verification by Bowie and Co. only and will remain confidential from City of Rollingwood staff and residents as well as the CRCRC.
Mhm.
And the first page, it says all responses will be confidential and anonymous to the CRCRC.
So I just added that the identity of the responders will be anonymous to the CRCRC. Addresses will be collected at the end of the survey to be used for survey verification by Bowie and Company only and will remain confidential from City of Rollingwood staff and residents as well as the CRCRC. Do we want to include City of Rollingwood staff in there, or should we remove that as
I would.
remove it?
And City of Rollingwood staff. That's what you're saying, right?
No, I'm saying to Ashley's point, if we're turning over that full data set, then we aren't removing. We just would remove the addresses from the data set that's shared with this committee.
Right.
Anything shared with us will be shared with all the residents. That's a public record.
Mm-hmm.
The addresses themselves, the only way that they could be accessed would be through information request. So then, are we trying to get into that nuance of, well, if an information request happens, who does the data
Yes, they would,
address
and
go
so the
through?
city would need to have that
City
information
staff would
because
need
say
to. Yep.
a year from now somebody comes and they ask us for that, then
Yes.
we would. I
So,
think it-
so
city
maybe
would
just
have that.
be ambiguous about city staff, since city staff is not going to have the data unless there's an information request, and we can just be a bit vague in the survey itself.
Okay, I was gonna suggest that it would remain confidential from residents and the CRCRC.
Exactly.
works?
But you're not
Okay.
mentioning city staff, so it's not clear either way.
Wait, yep. Okay.
And if information request happens, it doesn't become public record, or does it?
No.
No.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't become public.
Okay.
Wait, sorry, what?
Well, it's a public record that is disclosed to the requester.
Yeah, it goes,
Just
and
the
then they,
request.
whatever, they can
Whatever they
do with
at
it.
that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Dave, where are we?
Well, we are, I think, unless Sarah has any other questions for us, I think we are finished.
That takes us to the end. I just to kind of come back to those
Sure.
last questions. I had mentioned that for questions 20 through 24,
Uh-huh.
will only, for example, on question 20, if you click no, you won't be asked question 21.
Yes, agreed.
That's fine.
And
If
then-
it's easy for you to do it that way, it's fine.
It
If it's
is, and then
not,
that way-
you know, but yeah.
Yeah, and then same with have you lived near a recent build? If they answer no, then those other questions would not pop up.
Sounds good. And I guess, please check any, have you Should we give numbers to these demographic questions?
Yes, they'll be numbered when we
Okay.
upload them into the
Put
system.
them at the end, they're gone in the end, right?
Yes, and so our numbers have all kind of
Cool.
gotten messed up anyways
Okay,
tonight,
now,
but
with what you just said, that you'll eliminate questions based on the yes, no answer to a top one.
only
Does
for
that
those
change-
last.
Does that, will the numbering then get confusing whenever the responder is looking at it? Oh, I'm going from 21 to 26 all of a sudden.
I will have to double check that
Why
when
don't
we're
you
setting
just
up.
label?
Okay,
Let them, they can page past.
okay. I
Maybe
might, we'll put,
people might want to know just what you're asking.
I will
just-
put NA
Yeah,
for those,
That's
just so it's not.
that's cool. Cool. That works very well. And it gives everybody the opportunity to at least see, if I was living here, or if I did just build a house, this is the things that they would be asking.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's it. It's part of their education. Yes, Sean?
One last thing.
Yeah.
If you
Go.
will. This is just. Anyway, Shanti Jaykumar, 3309 Parkers Drive. Since I'm not privy to what the questions are, except whatever I picked up today, I don't know what you have at the beginning
Uh-huh.
when you send out the survey.
Right.
I think there should be a very powerful statement, I'm assuming there is,
Right.
that this is a very important step for the future of Rollingwood.
Yes.
So what you answer, it give a little, what do you call?
Gravity?
Put some fire under people
Okay.
to say that we are assuming you want to live in Rollingwood for 5, 10, 15 years, whatever,
Right.
and the answers that you give or your inputs on the questions here are very significant because those will get incorporated into whatever it is that the city council, on a comprehensive
Okay,
plan.
okay.
Because from the public standpoint,
Right.
I'm saying this, and
Right.
also having been on the council, I'm just
Right.
saying, it's important to translate that, what you want, in your first statement. I'm sure it's there, but somebody should be, oh, I better do this, you know?
We had kicked around the idea of including like a cover letter that the
Yeah.
mayor would sign or something like that.
Uh-huh.
I've spoken with him about it. But it's a thought, and it does give a little more gravity to the
Uh-huh,
whole situation. And maybe, that's a great suggestion.
Just so that they don't,
Yeah.
all
Well-
these surveys, these people, they come back for survey. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying people might. Because
do you all
everybody's
think?
strapped for time.
What
But
do you think?
it should be something
I
that,
think the idea is
compels
to do
them.
a little cover letter from
At the
there.
end, at the end of the initial paragraph, which you say you've not seen it.
Again, I haven't seen
It
it, so
says,
I'm
thank
just-
you for your thoughtful participation.
Yeah.
You could expand that a little bit by saying,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
important this is to the future of
The
Rolling.
bulldozers are coming.
Whatever.
Your input is very valuable.
Yeah.
Okay, we may want to add some things. Give us some space, okay?
Yeah, we can add that. But I would also recommend that you put that in the promotional materials as
Yeah.
well, so that people are because they
Yeah.
first have to click on the survey
Right.
to see that. So,
Yes, very good.
Putting that in there.
We can actually increase what's in the website. Ashley's been kind enough to allow us, we have an announcement out there on the website right now that says that we're going to be releasing this thing on the 21st.
Okay, good. I have two, if you're kind of at the end, I have two quick administrative things. On the roll call today, we need to add Jeff as present, and Shante as a member of the public, whoever's keeping notes of the meeting.
Well, that'll happen.
Will it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, it didn't happen, and we need to
Well,
amend my.
if you, actually, you'll see that Shanti's comments were in the notes from last,
She was, but in some place, anyway.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think we need to amend my motion, or was it Duke's motion, to approve the minutes of September 26, which do not show that Jeff was there.
they do.
No,
So
they
it shows
don't.
it later in the.
It says later, it says
Right
that
back
Jeff-
at the top.
Jeff
Where-
entered the discussion at this point.
Oh, does it?
It does, yes.
Oh, okay.
Apologies, everyone.
I missed that.
Yeah.
For showing up late.
I just wanna make sure that you get, I wanna make sure that you
Yeah.
get the
I get my
payroll.
credit.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm
you
just-
get paid for your attendance, the same as the rest of us.
Actually, they're pretty great minutes. She did a really good job pulling those together. And what happens here, Brian, is that because of our new modern techniques and things, this recording gets reviewed by our secretary, and then she turns them into minutes. So, and she does a very good job. Our minutes from the last meeting are quite good. So,
How are we doing on the agenda?
okay. What?
Yes, the work back schedule. So this is, we had shared at our last meeting, we had talked about how can we make sure that we get everything that needs to be done ahead of launching the survey. So working through the survey edits is a big one. And then we are also tasked with advising on community outreach. And so one of the things we had discussed was creating a postcard that can be used. And so just needing the final copy for that. It sounds like there's a copy up on the website that we could potentially pull from. If that's what the
Well, that's a
committee would like
start,
to
yeah,
do.
but I think, they're my words, they're not great words, they're just words. I think something like that is what we want to get out.
Okay,
And
if you'd
maybe,
like us
you
to
know,
take that.
To Shanti's point, maybe something with, some gravity to it that we may be adding to that this really is important, or, I don't know.
Okay, would you like us to work on that?
Yeah, I guess in the minutes from last meeting, it said that you were going to do that.
That we were going to write the copy?
Yeah, you were gonna write the postcard.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I was my understanding we were designing the postcard based on the
That's
copy given to us, but we can take that.
Well, if anybody here, I can write it. It doesn't matter to me. But if you're really good at it, and that's
Okay, we'll do it.
all
Yep.
right. Do it.
We just need to get it approved by the committee soon, so I will work on that and share it because we need to start that design in order to
Okay.
get it printed.
Supposed to have this approved within a
There's a
week.
rub. Okay. We don't have a meeting between now
Do we,
and the time that the survey gets released.
do we need the committee to approve it or a single member? Like, could Dave approve it or Alex?
This is the sticky point, whenever you start to get into approvals.
I don't think we need to make it sticky. I think you can approve it, or
I don't
s-
I don't need
couple people
input.
can look at it. And I
Alright.
think it's
Would someone like to make a motion to give me authority to maybe try that? We can do it that way.
To approve
To
the,
approve the copy that is being
I don't think we
created for our
approved the copy of the
postcard.
last card, or did we? Yeah, we did. That was,
I would like it to be circulated. I'm happy to give you authority to do it.
yeah.
Yeah, we can get it circulated.
Yeah, get it
Okay.
circulated.
We'll get it circulated, but I'll approve it.
Well, I make a motion that Dave design the postcard and work out initial draft and circulate it to the committee for.
I think they're gonna design it. Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Bowie's gonna do it.
But then that you have the authority to approve the
I do,
design.
yeah, that's, yeah. But after review by the committee.
All right.
Yeah, sorry, can you repeat your motion, please?
I make a motion that Dave have the authority to approve the design of the postcard created by Bowie after it has been reviewed by the rest of the committee.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion.
Don't leave
Any
until we
discussion?
vote.
Any
Say yes.
Any discussion?
Yes, I approve.
Okay, all right.
Now you can
All in
leave.
favor, say
Aye.
aye. Okay, all opposed? Motion carries. Good, we can do,
Okay.
we can do.
That's all I have.
Lovely, okay. We're doing this, folks. I'm just delighted. This is just coming. Wow, we're doing it. I guess that's the end of our discussion right now around this. I'm gonna wanna examine this at home, the schedule that you have written here.
Okay, this is what I had shared last week
Okay,
after we met.
Okay.
I believe this was circulated
okay,
with everyone, but
okay.
feel free to review and just let
Are we on
Sounds
track?
Yes. We-
Just about.
All right. Next
Motion-
topic?
Motion to adjourn, or are we
No,
done?
no, our next topic is, do you want to
Well-
introduce the
Yeah, I think we've kind of run out of time. I do want to ask maybe one question. If anybody
on the
is
topic of trees?
on the topic of trees, if
Okay.
anybody's interested in being on a subcommittee, or any two people or something, so that we can talk about trees as a small group.
I'm willing to talk about trees in a
Okay.
small group.
Okay,
I'll be on it.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I think we're, in the spirit of time, we'll just defer to the next meeting. to
All
talk
right.
about it.
Do we want to put trees on the agenda for the next meeting?
Yes, and it's not so much, well, there's some things upstream of the tree ordinance that I thought were important to talk about, just in terms of like irrigation, and I think that just separate from the tree ordinance, I think that the city allows people to water trees, and I
Okay.
don't think that people know that, but that may not be something for this committee.
Would it be possible to engage some experts in the area to come and address this committee?
I thought Brooke was gonna come, but given that
No,
we're
no,
gonna-
no, I
okay.
mean, is she an
We,
expert
we
on
Well,
trees?
she's not-
we used to have an arborist, but we don't anymore.
Yeah, that's, and it's mentioned throughout the tree ordinance as if we
Yeah.
do, but
And
we
there's an
don't.
awful lot of people out there that hold themselves out as having expertise, and I get them to come over and look at the trees on my lot, and I get
Right.
BS from them.
Right, right. Well, I'm wondering, here's some of what I'm thinking.
Mhm.
Is that, you know, you've heard me talk about fire issues and my concern about tree ordinances and there not being any component in there that talks about wildfires.
Mhm.
I think that I can get somebody from the county fire marshal's
Mhm.
office, to come and talk to us about hazards and how plantings can go in the wrong direction if they're done improperly, if they're too
Mhm.
close together, too close to houses, to whatever, you know.
Mhm.
And I would like to have that brought here to this committee, just,
Mhm.
doesn't mean anything, just to hear it,
Mhm.
so that it might have some influence on the direction that we take in one thing or the other, just to hear a little bit about it. And I wonder if we can do the same thing with, you know, go to one of the nurseries here that sells these trees or whatever, and ask
Mhm.
them to talk to us about
Mhm.
tree care and what's the best way to do it. And if you were designing a place, or you know, that
Yeah.
article that was about, Singapore,
Mhm.
you know,
Reducing the heat island effect.
right, yeah, all that, all this is
I
good
think
stuff.
One of the things that stands out to me is that there are a number of people that are buying lots that they may not be moving into their homes, or they may be building for some period of time, and the trees are not being maintained and they're dying. And I think that we need to talk about an irrigation plan for trees that
Right.
might be potentially issued at the same time as a demolition permit, or when you have to provide a tree protection plan. that-
Does anybody else have that?
I don't know, but I could research that. But
Like
it just
that, you
seems
know.
that, you know, in addition to drought and windstorms, and the city of Austin cutting all of our trees for power lines, and freeze storms, ice storms, you know, our trees are really struggling. And so I just think that maybe it's not even something that's in the tree ordinance, that there, you know,
Right.
that the city might talk about ways that
There are
residents can.
provisions if you have a tree planted in replacement trees planted in your neighbors or in a public place,
Mhm.
you have to maintain them and water them and keep them
Mhm.
alive for a certain amount of time. I'm
Mhm.
not sure what it is, 2
Like
years
3
or
years, I
something like
think.
that.
Yeah.
But as far as just buying a property and having to keep those trees alive,
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything in that one.
There's not, and I,
I
yeah.
don't think it's in Austin either.
Yeah.
but,
Well, let's postpone talking about this
All right.
until next time, and, yeah, maybe gather some experts, or
Here's a
we
thought,
can,
you know.
Jay and we can all
hope-
visit about this.
Hopefully the survey will be well underway when we next meet, and if we wanna talk about trees, you know, let's think about a list of topics that need to be discussed, for instance, irrigation plan and stuff.
Mhm.
Just those topics. Things that need to be discussed around trees that we really don't have any footing on right now.
Mhm.
And then make that list up and then follow it, you know, and say, okay, we're gonna knock out some discussion on this, and we're gonna knock out, if it merits it, if our survey merits it.
Mhm.
We're gonna find support we're hopefully gonna find support for such and such, and such and such, and such and such. What's our next step in that regard?
Mhm.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Uh,
Now, are we done?
No, well,
To
there's only one
adjourn.
last thing to do, and that is, or at least for me, when this postcard is developed, are we going to get some help from the women's club or from the walkers?
Yes, we've been talking.
Have you guys been talking?
Yep.
Well, not names, but yeah.
Good, that's fine, just wanna know that something's happening.
Yeah.
We'll round up people, no problem.
Yeah, yeah.
And you guys also, you know,
Right, yeah, that's right.
pick a street.
That's right, I'm gonna bring this up at P and Z tomorrow.
Give us some cards, we'll hand them out.
Yeah.
Right on, okay,
Absolutely.
very good.
Yeah, weren't we gonna divide up the city and?
Yeah.
and-
Well, it was kinda handed over to, I think, Duke and Alex and Shanti, they're kind of the team that are, at least that's what,
We'll give you some cards.
Yeah.
that's,
All right, give me
that's
a-
what the minutes from last
give me a
meeting say.
drawing or a list
Yeah,
of addresses
yeah.
or something and some cards. I'll be around this weekend. and-
Well, we
Okay.
need the cards,
Yeah,
that's
the
the
cards,
problem.
yeah, I
We have
don't
nothing
know.
to hand out.
No,
Okay.
not the cards.
All right,
What I was saying to Alex, just so you guys know, so when we had the directory, over the years, anytime we published a directory,
right,
there was a group of people that volunteered and we had a map and would highlight a few streets, and I say, okay, there are X number of houses in this area,
Mhm.
20, whatever, number. This is for you, you do all those homes.
yeah,
They go door to door and put it in, on
Yeah.
it, whatever, okay?
okay,
In this case, it's a postcard. In the directory, we had little bags with little holes of plastic bags that we put on there.
oh,
Most of the rubber band.
Cool.
There were about 500, and about 7 or 8 of us did it.
good,
So, in this case, you're time sensitive also.
Sounds good,
So you wanna
yeah.
make sure that, but having a map and a set of street, addresses, just the numbers,
right,
and people pick however many they wanna do,
Mhm.
and you highlight which area.
all right,
That's it. It's
All right.
easy.
So
Okay.
last time, I think 3 or 4 of us agreed to do that. Would the women's club members also be willing
Not
to?
necessarily
Yeah.
the women's club. I have experience doing it for the women's club, and so we can just extrapolate from how we did it.
Okay.
And
And we can get
we
volunteers
got
for
a
sure.
lot of walkers
Yeah,
that
if we need them.
okay.
reliable people.
I recognize that,
Yeah, so they're happy to on their walk just go and do it.
Mhm.
right.
We can do that once you have all your
Okay.
postcards.
What I'm hearing is this is all under control.
Yeah.
It'll get done.
It'll
All
get
right,
done.
that's it, okay. Meeting to adjourn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Okay.
Vote with
All in
your
favor,
feet.
aye? Good.
Aye.
Thank you.
4 O's.
The
We've had
meeting
some-
adjourned at 6:50.